Elisha, one of the most significant prophets in the Hebrew Bible, succeeded Elijah and played a crucial role in the spiritual and political life of ancient Israel. His story unfolds in the books of 1 Kings and 2 Kings, and it is rich with miracles, divine encounters, and prophetic actions. Elisha's story begins in 1 Kings 19, verses 19 to 21, where he is called by the prophet Elijah. Elijah finds Elisha plowing a field with 12 yoke of oxen. Elijah throws his cloak over Elisha, symbolizing the transfer of prophetic authority. Elisha immediately leaves his oxen and runs after Elijah, asking to kiss his parents goodbye. Elijah permits this, and after a farewell feast, Elisha becomes Elijah's servant. After receiving instructions from God at Mount Horeb, Elijah sets out to find Elisha. Elijah's journey leads him to Abel-Meholah, where he encounters Elisha, the son of Shaphat. Elisha is working in the fields, plowing with 12 yoke of oxen. The detail of 12 yokes suggests that Elisha comes from a wealthy family, as owning so many oxen were a sign of considerable affluence. Elijah approaches Elisha and, without a word, throws his cloak over him. This action is profoundly symbolic. The cloak, or mantle, represents Elijah's prophetic authority and power. By casting it over Elisha, Elijah is symbolically transferring his prophetic responsibilities and the Spirit of God that empowers his ministry to Elisha. This act signifies Elisha's calling to be Elijah's successor. Elisha's response is immediate and decisive. He leaves the oxen and runs after Elijah, demonstrating his willingness to leave his previous life behind and embrace his new calling. However, before fully committing, Elisha requests to kiss his father and mother goodbye. Elijah's response, "Go back, for what I have done to you," can be interpreted as a test of Elisha's resolve. It seems to emphasize that the call to prophetic ministry is a serious, life-altering commitment. Elisha returns to his family, but not just for a simple farewell. He takes the yoke of oxen he was plowing with and slaughters them. He uses the wood from the plowing equipment to cook the meat and prepares a feast for the people. This act serves multiple purposes. By slaughtering the oxen and burning the plowing equipment, Elisha is making a decisive break from his former life. There is no turning back. He cannot return to his old occupation even if he wanted to. The feast can be seen as both a sacrificial offering and a celebration. It marks the end of one chapter in Elisha's life and the beginning of another. It also involves the community, suggesting that his calling is not just a private matter, but one that impacts those around him. By feeding the people, Elisha demonstrates a spirit of generosity and service, qualities essential for his future role as a prophet. After this significant gesture, Elisha sets out to follow Elijah. He becomes Elijah's attendant, a role that involves learning from Elijah, assisting him, and preparing for his future responsibilities. This period of apprenticeship is crucial for Elisha's development as a prophet. It allows him to witness Elijah's ministry firsthand, understand the challenges of the prophetic office, and grow in his own relationship with God. Throughout their time together, Elisha remains devoted to Elijah, indicating his deep commitment to his prophetic calling. This mentorship lasts until Elijah's dramatic departure, at which point Elisha takes up Elijah's mantle and steps into his role as the leading prophet of Israel. The call of Elisha is important for several reasons. It ensures the continuation of God's prophetic voice in Israel. By calling Elisha, God demonstrates his ongoing commitment to guide and correct his people. Elisha's actions symbolize total dedication and the willingness to sacrifice everything for God's call. This sets a powerful example for future generations of believers. The period of serving under Elijah highlights the importance of mentorship in spiritual and vocational formation. Elisha's effective ministry later on is a testament to the value of this preparation. Elisha's call narrative, therefore, is not just a story of an individual's transition, but a profound testament to the enduring presence and work of God among his people. It underscores themes of obedience, sacrifice, mentorship, and divine appointment, which resonate throughout the biblical narrative and beyond. The transition from Elijah to Elisha marks one of the most dramatic and pivotal moments in the Hebrew Bible. This narrative, detailed in 2 Kings 2, encompasses Elijah's ascension to heaven and Elisha's establishment as the leading prophet in Israel. As the time approaches for Elijah to be taken up to heaven, Elijah and Elisha embark on a final journey together, starting from Gilgal. Along the way, they visit significant locations, each with a company of prophets. At Bethel, a group of prophets approaches Elisha, asking if he knows that the Lord is about to take Elijah away. Elisha acknowledges that he knows, but tells them to be quiet. This interaction repeats at each location they visit, underscoring the solemn and significant nature of the impending event. In Jericho, another group of prophets delivers the same message, and Elisha again acknowledges their words, but asks them to remain silent. The final destination is the Jordan River. Elijah, knowing the gravity of what is about to occur, repeatedly tells Elisha to stay behind at each location, but Elisha steadfastly refuses, demonstrating his unwavering loyalty and commitment. Upon reaching the Jordan, Elijah rolls up his cloak and strikes the water, parting it so they can cross on dry ground, reminiscent of the miracles of Moses and Joshua. Once they have crossed the Jordan, Elijah asks Elisha what he can do for him before he is taken away. Elisha responds by asking for a double portion of Elijah's spirit, signifying a desire not just to inherit Elijah's prophetic office, but to carry on his mission with even greater intensity and power. Elijah tells Elisha that his request is difficult, but will be granted if Elisha sees him being taken up. As they walk and talk, a chariot of fire and horses of fire suddenly appear, and Elijah is taken up to heaven in a whirlwind. Elisha cries out, my father, the chariots and horsemen of Israel," and watches Elijah ascend until he can see him no more. This exclamation recognizes Elijah's role as the spiritual and national protector of Israel. Elisha picks up Elijah's cloak, which had fallen as Elijah ascended. Returning to the Jordan, he strikes the water with the cloak, crying out, "Where now is the Lord, the God of Elijah?" The water parts again, confirming that the spirit of Elijah now rests on Elisha. This miracle signifies that Elisha has indeed inherited Elijah's prophetic authority. The company of prophets from Jericho, who had been watching from a distance, see Elisha perform this miracle and acknowledge that the spirit of Elijah rests on him. They offer to search for Elijah, thinking he might have been taken up and then dropped somewhere by the Spirit of the Lord. Despite Elisha's initial refusal, they persist until he agrees, but the search proves futile. Further confirming Elijah's heavenly ascension, Elisha's early ministry is marked by a series of miraculous acts that establish his authority and demonstrate God's power working through him. The people of Jericho approach Elisha with a problem. Their water supply is bad, causing unproductiveness and death. Elisha requests a new bowl with salt, which he throws into the spring, proclaiming the Lord's healing of the water. The water becomes pure, and this miracle highlights Elisha's role as a restorer and healer, showing God's provision for the community. As Elisha travels to Bethel, a group of boys mock him, calling him Baldy. This disrespectful behavior is met with a severe response. Elisha curses them in the name of the Lord, and 2 bears come out of the forest and maul 42 of the boys. This incident underscores the seriousness of mocking God's prophet and serves as a stark reminder of the respect due to those who carry out God's work. A widow of one of the prophets comes to Elisha in desperation. Her creditor is about to take her 2 sons as slaves because she cannot pay her debt. Elisha asks her what she has in her house, and she replies that she has nothing but a small jar of oil. Elisha instructs her to borrow as many empty jars as she can from her neighbors, then go inside and pour oil into all the jars. Miraculously, the oil flows until every jar is filled. She sells the oil, pays her debts, and has enough left over to support her family. This miracle illustrates God's abundant provision and care for the needy. Elisha frequently visits the town of Shunem, where a wealthy woman and her husband provide him with a room. In gratitude, Elisha promises the woman a son, despite her husband's old age. The child is born, but years later he dies suddenly. The woman places the boy on Elisha's bed and rides to Mount Carmel to find Elisha. Elisha returns with her, prays over the child, and stretches himself out on the boy, reviving him. This act of resurrection underscores Elisha's power over life and death and God's compassion. In 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 38 to 41, states that during a famine, a pot of stew made by the prophets is poisoned. Elisha adds some flour, and the stew is purified and safe to eat. In 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 42 to 44, says that a man brings Elisha 20 loaves of barley bread and some grain. Elisha instructs his servant to distribute the food to 100 men. Despite the small quantity, there is enough for everyone, with leftovers. Naaman, a Syrian army commander, suffers from leprosy. On the advice of a captive Israelite girl, he seeks Elisha's help. Elisha instructs him to wash 7 times in the Jordan River. Naaman is initially angry, but eventually complies and is healed. In 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 1 to 7 states that when a borrowed axe head falls into the Jordan River, Elisha throws a stick into the water, causing the axe head to float, enabling it to be retrieved. Elisha's early ministry is characterized by acts that confirm his role as a prophet and demonstrate God's power through him. These miracles serve the following purposes: to validate Elisha's succession of Elijah, proving that God's spirit and authority rest upon him. These miracles highlight God's provision and care for his people, particularly the vulnerable and needy. The incident with the mocking boys underscores the seriousness of respecting God's anointed prophets. They often bring life and restoration, pointing to God's desire to heal and restore his people. Through these early acts, Elisha establishes himself as a powerful and compassionate prophet, continuing Elijah's legacy and demonstrating that God's presence and power remain with Israel. Elisha also plays a crucial role during the conflicts between Israel and Aram, Syria. He repeatedly thwarts the Aramean king's plans by revealing them to the king of Israel as God reveals them to him. At one point, the Arameans surround the city of Dothan to capture Elisha. Elisha's servant is terrified, but Elisha prays for his eyes to be opened. The servant then sees the hills full of horses and chariots of fire. Elisha prays, and the Arameans are struck with blindness. He leads them to Samaria, where their eyes are opened, and they are spared by the king of Israel, leading to a period of peace. The end of Elisha's life, recorded in 2 Kings 13 verses 14 to 21, encompasses a final prophecy, a miraculous event even after his death, and reflects his lasting impact on Israel. His death marks the conclusion of a significant prophetic ministry that deeply influenced the spiritual and political landscape of Israel. As Elisha becomes terminally ill, King Jehoash of Israel visits him, demonstrating the high regard in which Elisha is held even by the monarchy. The king weeps over him, expressing his distress with the words, my father, the chariots and horsemen of Israel." This phrase echoes Elisha's own words when Elijah was taken up to heaven, indicating Joash's recognition of Elisha as a protector and spiritual leader of Israel. Despite his illness, Elisha remains committed to his prophetic mission. He instructs Joash to take a bow and some arrows. As Joash obeys, Elisha places his hands on the king's hands, symbolizing the transfer of divine empowerment. Elisha then commands Joash to open the east window and shoot an arrow. When Joash does so, Elisha declares that the arrow signifies the Lord's victory over Aram, Syria. This prophetic act symbolizes a forthcoming victory, assuring Joash of divine support against their enemies. Elisha further instructs Joash to strike the ground with the remaining arrows. Joash strikes the ground 3 times and stops. Elisha becomes angry with him, saying that Joash should have struck the ground 5 or 6 times, which would have ensured a more decisive victory over Aram. Because Joash only struck 3 times, Elisha prophesies that Israel will defeat Aram only 3 times, indicating limited success due to Joash's lack of zeal and faith. Elisha eventually dies and is buried. His death marks the end of an era, but his influence endures, underscored by a remarkable miracle that occurs even after his burial. A band of Moabite raiders invades Israel every spring. During one such raid, some Israelites are in the process of burying a man. Spotting the raiders, they hastily throw the man's body into Elisha's tomb. As soon as the dead man's body touches Elisha's bones, the man comes back to life and stands up. The event underscores that God's power continues to work through Elisha, even after his death. It serves as a testament to Elisha's enduring prophetic influence. The resurrection of the dead man foreshadows the Christian concept of resurrection and eternal life, illustrating God's authority over death. This final miracle signifies that Elisha's ministry leaves a lasting legacy, reinforcing the idea that the influence of God's prophets extends beyond their earthly lives. The end of Elisha's life and his posthumous miracle carry deep Bible and spiritual importance. Elisha's final interactions with King Joash reflect the importance of faith, obedience, and zeal in experiencing God's full blessings and victories. Joash's limited faith results in limited success, contrasting with Elisha's lifelong example of steadfast faith and complete trust in God. The miracle of the revived man highlights the belief that divine power transcends death, offering hope and assurance of God's ultimate authority over life and death. Elisha's life and ministry emphasize the continuity of God's prophetic work in Israel. His miracles, teachings, and the mantle, passed from Elijah to Elisha, ensure that God's guidance and intervention remain constant. Elisha's death does not signify the end of his influence. Instead, his life and posthumous miracle illustrate that the power and presence of God persist through his chosen instruments, beyond their earthly existence. Elisha's ministry, characterized by miracles, prophetic pronouncements, and acts of compassion, solidifies his role as one of Israel's greatest prophets. His life story serves as a powerful reminder of God's enduring faithfulness, the importance of unwavering faith, and the profound impact one individual can have when wholly dedicated to God's service.
Thank you for watching. Keep trusting, keep praying, and keep believing. Until next time, stay in the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspirational videos. Your support is highly appreciated. God bless you.